Hi, I'm going to be showing you how I'm working on Proverbs. So right now I'm working on the fourth chapter of Proverbs. And you can see here I was working on verse 6 of chapter 4, and I said, You, Solomon, imperative means command, do not leave or abandon wisdom. So this means that if abandon is defined in the target language, use that, otherwise fall back on leave. Then is the consequent, D is the consequence form of then. You can find that in conjunctions. So here you can see then D, consequence or consequently. Uh, then wisdom will guard you. Love wisdom, then wisdom will protect or watch over you. I wasn't sure about adding watch over as a complex term, so Todd may want to throw that out, but I put that in as a possibility to make it more accurate. So now we're going to work on verse 7, and I haven't yet looked at this, so you're seeing me right while I'm raw on this verse. So here, I'll show you my setup. So actually I have two screen monitors normally, so normally I would spread these out more, but I have all these materials available. So this is Bible Gateway, and I have four translations here: New International, New Century, International Children's Bible, and New American Standard Bible. There's very little difference between New Century and International Children's, but sometimes International Children's Bible will state something a little bit more simply. But you can see here it's exactly the same at the beginning of Proverbs chapter 4. And New American Standard is to get a very literal translation, and also it's helpful for identifying implicit information that I want to mark. Here I have Hebrew interlinear. That can be helpful for finding out like whether a pronoun is singular or plural and some other things. I don't want to depend heavily on that because generally the English translations are better for interpreting what the verse means than the interlinear. This is Paratext. That's a program that's available to translators. And here I have the easy translation, that's easy English. This is the more up-to-date version of Easy English, which has not been made public, but which is available on Paratext. This is the display part of the translation notes, which is an SIL resource. So this is a possibility for translating one of these verses. And this is the T4T translation. T4T adds a lot of extra information. It can be helpful for showing what's implicit and sometimes for suggesting implicit sentences to add. In addition, I have the translation notes here. This is the description of what they want to say about a verse. Not necessarily the suggested translation, but it gives you more information like what's literal and what the words mean. And if I don't get everything I need from that, I even have the United Bible Society Translation Handbook here. So the first thing I do usually is I take a look at these four translations. And like I said, we're going to be working on verse 7. Okay, it says in the NIV, the beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. Though it cost you all you have, get understanding. So I can see some problems here right away. So first of all, we don't generally like this word beginning. Right now we have it at the beginning of Genesis, in the beginning, as an option, but it's really a pretty complex concept. So we're going to try to rewrite that. Get wisdom is fine. Understanding. That's not a word that we want to use as a simple word. We're not going to count on that being available. One of the things we can do to check words is this is the Longman defining vocabulary. And if I look up understand, I see it has understand, which is a verb, but it doesn't have understanding, which is a noun. Understanding is what we call a nominalization. It's where you take a verb and convert it to a noun form. So I'm not going to use understanding probably. I'll probably express it a different way. So the beginning of wisdom is this. Wisdom is the most important thing. Okay. Now, because these differ so much, I'm going to want to look at the translation notes. So here, I'm going to go to the translation notes for 4.7. That's interesting. So this is says wisdom is supreme. So I thought this was using NIV, but maybe they used a different translation here. Okay, so it says the Hebrew word that the NIV translates as supreme. So this is saying it's NIV, but here on Bible Gateway it says NIV. Must be a different version of the NIV. There's more than one version. Means beginning or first, but it can, oh no. Okay, I'm going to pause the video because Paratext just crashed. Okay, I'm back. The experience of people working with computers, I guess. Okay, so apparently there's a different version of the NIV that the notes are using, I guess. And it says can usually means beginning or first, but it can also mean best or most important. So there are two ways to translate. Wisdom is the most important quality. Okay. And the first thing to do in becoming wise is decide to get wisdom. Okay, they recommend, so one nice thing about the translation notes is they often make recommendations, which I would usually follow. So it says it's recommended that you follow interpretation 1. We could make an alternate where we have both interpretations, but I don't think the distinction is so important here. So, so I'm going to use this. It's the most important. Now I could say quality, I think, or characteristic. Let's see what Longman has. You might wonder why I'm not looking first in the program. Character, quality. Another thing would be to use thing. It's the most important thing. Might end up, but it has. We have quality. I don't know if we have that in the program. So here I went to. I've gone to nouns, objects. Then I do the pull down, Q. We don't have that in here, but it is in the Longman dictionary. And So if I look up Longman Dictionary of Quality, how good or bad something is. That's not really the same thing. The second definition is something that people may have as part of their character. For instance, courage or intelligence. Characteristic. I think we've introduced quality before, but I'm not sure about that. So let's go here. Wisdom is the most important quality, depending on whether you consider, open quote, quality, close quote, as simple or complex, period. Now, what I've done here is I wrote wisdom is the most important quality, assuming that that would be a level 1 or simple word that we can just use. That's not totally clear because the first definition of quality in the Longman Dictionary, excuse me, I'm going to pause so you don't have to listen to that. The first definition of quality in the Longman Dictionary is like how good or bad something is. The quality of that chocolate was excellent. The second definition is the one we want, is the characteristic about a person. So I think we've introduced this before, so I'm going to put it with just the word, but if we do consider it to be complex, and I'll let Todd decide this, then it can be paired with thing, which is a very simple term. Okay. In the NIV, then it says, therefore get wisdom. Let's look at get wisdom, so get wisdom, so get wisdom. I'm going to go with the NCV here, so, using so. I could use therefore, like that other translation. I think the something like that connector was implied by this construction. The beginning is this, get wisdom. So you, imperative paren, get wisdom, period. So you may have noted I'm using voice recognition. So in this passage, this part of Proverbs, Solomon is talking about what his father taught him. So the father is speaking to Solomon. So you is Solomon. We have to indicate that here in these parentheses. And this imperative means it's a command, get wisdom. Okay, now let's look at the second part of that verse. And I'll go back to the basic 4 translations first that I'm using. Though it cost all that you have, get understanding. New Century says, if it costs everything you have, get understanding. And International Children's Bible, if it costs everything you have, get understanding. And acquire wisdom, and with all your possessions, acquire understanding. So I would not favor the really literal here. I think probably what's intended is more like these others, even though it might cost you everything you have. Let's see what the translation notes say about this. though it cost all you have, get understanding. Okay, so it says in Hebrew, the first part of this line is literally with all your acquisitions. So now you see where New American Standard Bible came from. In this context, it literally implies in exchange for selling all your possessions. But this line is not speaking about literal selling or buying. It indicates the young man should make it his top priority and do everything possible to get wisdom. So they say you could translate it something like, whatever else you do, get wisdom. Now in TBTA, our translation program, we can go to, so here I'm looking at the, how you might ask, how did I get here? So if you click on ontology and lexicon, ontology, and then I go to relations. That's what I'm interested in now, source relations. Okay, what I was going to show you is that we have even if. See that? That's just what we want. Or even though. Now, even though would be great in English, but actually, if you look at the gloss here, definition of what it means contrary to fact. So I don't think that's what we mean. So I'm going to go with even if. Okay, and I'm going to go with not like the NASB, but more like even though it cost all that you have. Now let's see what we have for something like costs. We could say even if you need to pay. I don't know if we have this sense of costs. And, you know, we couldn't say it costs. Right now, we don't have a verb cost, but probably we could add that. But I think need to pay would be better, or need to spend. Let's see. So I'm in events right now. Click the down arrow. Let's see if I spend. Maybe I like pay better. But we do have spend. Pay money or goods for something. Oh, that's good. Oh, I don't know. Pay. Let's look at pay. This is one of those choices where you have to use one or the other. Pay someone for something. I think pay is better. Okay, let's do it. Cap even hyphen if you, no space, left paren, Solomon, right paren, need to oh, I'm being wishy-washy. Spend or pay? Pay implies that you're getting something in exchange, so I think I'll use that. Oh, I don't know. Pay all the things, left bracket, that you, no space, left paren, Solomon, right paren, have, right bracket, right bracket, now here, I'm not going to use understanding. Translation notes say, take a look at 4.1b. Not very helpful. Interpret and comprehend. I think understanding is pretty good for that, but I want to translate as a verb. Um, let's go back and look at here. Even if you have to pay everything you have, get understanding. Acquire understanding. Let's take a look at what the Easy English says there. That might be helpful. Make sure that you learn to understand things well. I kind of like that. Whatever you do, get okay. Make sure. Now, we can't say make sure. We could say become able. Or learn. We'll just say learn. Okay. Okay, so we've got it. We got this one. Okay, I forgot here, even if you need, then to pay is a clause argument of need. So I need to put a bracket around that. I already put 2 brackets here. There need to be 3 brackets. Okay, the third bracket closes the even if clause. Then need to pay, and then there's another left bracket, things that you have. This is a relative clause modifying things. So I need 3 brackets here. You, no space, left paren, Solomon, right paren, imperative paren, learn, left bracket, to understand things, implicit. Okay, see what I did here? I said, you learn to understand things well. So that's getting understanding, I think. Learning to understand. And since we don't know what things are to be understood, wise things probably, I'm just going to make it things implicit. So if the translation will allow us to drop that, we can just drop it and say to understand, learn to understand well. Okay, while we're thinking about, okay, I'm going to make a note here. Open quote, spend, close quote, instead of open quote, pay, close quote, period. Okay, that's a note to Todd that if he thinks spend is better, he could do that. Okay, wisdom is the most important quality, so get wisdom. Even if you need to pay all the things that you have, learn to understand things well. I like that. Okay, now let's think about if there's any other information in there that's implicit. Beginning of wisdom, well, we interpreted beginning as most important, so that's not implicit. Get wisdom is same as acquire. And with all your possessions, so we had everything that you have, all the things that you have. So that's pretty literal. Acquire understanding. So we said learn to understand. So I think we've got that. And here's the T4T, and we could say, okay, I don't see anything implicit that we need to add there. So I'm going to consider this verse complete. So that was a long video, but hopefully that's showing you my approach now to working on Proverbs.